I'm life and business coach Samantha Sifring, and this is the Online Business Building Mamas podcast, where you learn how to build a wildly successful business from home while raising kids. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. So today we are talking about consistency. This brings up a lot of drama for a lot of people, and I've been thinking about it a lot. I've been thinking through everything in my life and in my business through the lens of my recent ADHD diagnosis. And consistency is one of those things because I've heard from a lot of people that consistency is really difficult for people with ADHD, and I wanted to talk about it. I recently saw a post on Instagram. I think it was like about human design, but it was talking about consistency and routine and that kind of thing and how it doesn't work for some personality types and it does work for others. And I think that I am like all of the different personality types that routine and consistency doesn't work for, but I have been able to figure out how to be consistent in my business. So I really wanted to share with you some of the tips that I have about how to be consistent and how I have been able to do it. I think a lot of you have an idea of how I do things that you think is like the right way or the ideal way, and that way won't work for you. And I want to just encourage all of you in this episode that the things that work for me are things that I found by being willing to do it the wrong way, by being willing to do things differently than how my mentor does them or other coaches that I've worked with or I've learned from in the past. Instead of feeling like their way is the only way to do it, I was willing to get messy. I was willing to find the way that worked for me. And that's why I'm able to do the things that you see me do. So let's first talk about why consistency even matters. So here's my belief, and I want to offer this to you about consistency as it relates to your business and how you show up in your business. I think consistency really helps build trust with your audience. So having some kind of regular cadence of when you show up and when you put out value to your audience builds trust with them. It shows you as a reliable, consistent, dependable kind of person. So I think that that is the first benefit. I think about this podcast, for instance. I have been putting out a weekly episode since 2018. So that is over 3 years of consistently putting out a weekly episode. I'm going to use the podcast example a lot, but for now, I want you to think about how it has consistently come out week after week after week for over 3 years now. I will say, I think we've had some like tech troubles maybe once or twice, and the episode was late, like later the same day, not even like a day late, but like later that same day, a few hours later, something like that. And with that, we received emails and contact from clients and audience members asking, where's the podcast? When's it going to be out? What happened? So I really think that those of you who are the super loyal listeners, regular listeners, you are looking for this. You're counting on this. You're wanting to see this there. So I think it really builds trust and a healthy relationship when I deliver. I also have this concept that I share with my clients that I teach in Mama to CEO about microwave popcorn. So this is like a visual, maybe I've talked about it on the podcast before. I don't really remember if I have. If I have, then we will take a look and link it up in the show notes. But essentially, this is the idea that your audience is like a bag of microwave popcorn. And the value that you're putting out there is the heat inside that microwave that is heating them up. It's heating up that oil until they start popping, until they want to buy. So I think that the consistency of putting out value is what continues to keep heating up that oil. So if your microwave wasn't putting out consistent heat in the microwave, the popcorn would never pop. The oil would never heat up, right? It would cool down in between blasts of heat, and you wouldn't get that result that you want. So it's not to say that you can't put one post out there and get clients. That has happened to a lot of my clients before. It's amazing. But also I think there's something to be said for the consistency of putting something out. Now, this idea of consistency is super triggering to a lot of people, I think, because of how they define consistency. I think I've talked about this before as well, that you get to define consistency however you want. You get to decide what that is. Every person's consistency is going to look different, and that's okay. So you don't have to think that, well, the way Samantha does it is the only way to be consistent, and if I'm not doing it like that, then I'm not being consistent. That isn't true. My life coach sends a monthly email. Now, I send 2 emails a week. I send a Monday email with value and typically an offer. I send a Wednesday email where I send you the podcast episode. So I'm sending 8 emails a month, typically. And my life coach sends 1. That is totally okay. So I want you to know you get to decide what your consistency is. Don't use somebody else's definition against yourself. I also want you to think about consistency like this. I want you to imagine that consistency in your business, putting out value on a regular basis at a regular cadence, is like exercise. So it isn't the one big workout that you do that gets you the results, that gets you to be super fit or building muscle, whatever it is. It's the cumulative effect of showing up regularly. And then it's also not the week that you take off from the gym for whatever reason. I love this example, by the way, because I don't go to the gym. I know enough about going to the gym to know how it works, but I'm like, this is funny. I don't go. Maybe you don't either. Doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about. But imagine that you take a whole week off of going to the gym. That's not going to derail your progress either, because it really is about that cumulative effect over time. So I don't want you to use this idea of consistency in your business and your marketing and the value you're putting out there against yourself, because like if you take a week off, who cares, right? It's not about that. It's about the consistency over time. So now I want to talk to you about a few different secrets to consistency that I have found that have really made it a lot easier for me. So I'm not somebody who likes consistency. I like mayhem. I thrive on things being different. I love driving a different way to go somewhere. I used to love going to a different grocery store. Now it drives me crazy. I don't usually grocery shop anymore. That's not really my job. But I used to really like the novelty of something brand new when it came to shopping, and I still do in other areas of my life. Like rearranging furniture is the most fun thing. I feel like it makes my brain so happy to rearrange furniture. So trust me, consistency, like keeping things the same, is not something that I love or naturally am wired for. That is not my personality trait at all. But these are some hacks that I have found. And if they work for me, I feel like they work for everybody. So first one is keeping things simple. This is like the premise of my entire business. If you have been wondering, like, what is Samantha's coaching philosophy? What's her perspective about business? It is this: simplicity, keeping it simple. I think that simple is doable. Like if we keep it simple, we're so much more likely to do it. So whatever we can do for it to be super simple is definitely the way to do it, because that means it's going to get done. So I want you, when you're thinking about putting out value regularly in your business, I want you to make that plan as simple as possible. If you're trying to be on like 5 different platforms 5 times a week, forget it. You don't have time for that. Newsflash. I don't care who you are. If you're listening to this, you don't have time for that. So let that go. Next, you want this to be something you like. A lot of you are choosing to market your business in a way that you don't like because you think it's like the right way. I think that there are some of you who have like 30 people on your email list, and one of them is your mom and one is your best friend. And you are like consistently putting an email out every single week. That was me for a while at the beginning of my business. I think I had like 40 people on my list, and it was mostly friends and my mom and my stepmom and my mother-in-law. Like I had 3 moms on this email list. I was going all out. And I was consistently putting out content every week, like an email newsletter every week. And that was getting me nowhere, right? And that just like wasn't effective. And so in my case, that was something that wasn't effective. So that wasn't even on my list of these secrets to consistency, but I want you to put that in your mind as well. You only want to be consistent on the things that are truly going to be effective, and that wasn't going to be effective. But a lot of you are doing that just like I was, and you don't even like writing and sending emails. So if you don't like writing and sending emails, those emails are probably not that great. So I want you to really find the thing that you enjoy doing, and it's okay if it's uncomfortable. Like when I first started recording this podcast, I found that very uncomfortable. For those of you who go back and listen to the beginning episodes, you will tell that my voice on the podcast is very different. There is a distinct shift. If you go back through and you binge all the episodes, there is a shift that you can hear where I got more comfortable and more confident on the podcast. So you want to be sure that this is something that you like, even if it's something that you're working towards having the confidence for. You don't have to like be amazing at it to begin with, but let it be something you're going to enjoy. That makes it so much easier for you to do. Like newsflash, we're more likely to do things we enjoy than things we hate. Okay, third one is I want your plan to be attainable even on a rough week. So a lot of you create plans for your business and your marketing that are based on like everything going perfectly, and it's just not kind. It's not kind to yourself at all, because most of you are caregiving in some capacity, and in that gig of caregiving, shit happens. That's just how it goes. Things are going to come up that you didn't foresee, or you probably could have foreseen something coming up, right? So let's just be kind and realistic. Things are going to come up. So I want you to have a plan that's attainable even on those crazy, chaotic weeks. I also want to give you permission to kind of be inconsistent behind the scenes, but consistent in front of the scenes. So what I mean by that, and this is what I'm going to use the podcast as an example, is that I do not record a podcast every week. So I'm putting a podcast out every week. Actually, my team is putting out a podcast every week for all of you. I am not recording a podcast every week. I typically have weeks where I record a lot of podcasts all at once, and then weeks that go by where I record no podcasts at all. I love to work in a spurt and a sprint and do a bunch of stuff, and then have a handful of weeks that I'm doing the bare minimum. That is what I prefer to do in my business, and it really works for me. So I want you to explore doing it that way as well. Don't look at consistency as just because it's going out every week or every day or every month or whatever it is, That doesn't mean I have to do it daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is. You can do it on a different schedule, and that different schedule can be very inconsistent. I pretty much record podcasts whenever I feel like it. I have a standard for how many I want to have, how far in advance I want them done, I should say. So my team now wants to have my podcast 2 weeks in advance. That is our standard. I work really hard to keep that true all of the time. But right now, for instance, I am in a spurt where I am recording hopefully all of the podcasts for the rest of the year in this current week that I'm recording this. So I want to give you permission to be like that. You get to decide what the production side of things looks like. When I used to have my Facebook group, I would sit down and crank out like a week or two worth of posts in like an hour or an hour and a half and schedule them all, set them all up like that, and then not worry about it for a week or so. Last thing that I want to say to you is don't judge yourself if you aren't consistent. There is no good reason to judge yourself. There just isn't ever. We are really conditioned to think that judging ourselves and being really hard on ourselves is what's going to create results for us. And it's just not true. That doesn't actually make us want to behave better. So I really want to encourage you, if you find yourself not being consistent, to let that go. It really doesn't matter. Going back to that workout analogy, it's like you've taken some time off the gym. Who cares? Start going again. You don't want to be ruminating about the fact that you had some time off, you took some time off. You just want to get back into the swing of things. So think about, what do I need to think? What do I need to focus on to get myself back into the swing of things, to get myself back into my consistency? All right. Those are my secrets to consistency. I hope that you have fun playing with them and finding your own secrets for consistency. And I will talk to you again next week. If you like this podcast, I want to invite you to coach with me over in my program, Mama to CEO. There's you, and there's the consistent income you want to make in your business, and I help you remove everything standing in between. It's lifetime access for mastering your marketing, sales, time, and everything else you need to have the business and life you really want. Whether it's making your first 1,000 or 100,000, I can help you do it. To join, go to mamatoceo.com. mamatoceo.com.